Hello and welcome to our update here at Revesby Estates Farm. It's our January update. So how has January been here at Revesby as a whole? It's been another cold month. We've had 35.5 millimeters of rain, which mainly fell during the first half of January, and then we saw it switch to one of these prolonged cold spells again, which saw us having temperatures down to -7.5. We had frost for a prolonged, it was 6 nights of continuous frost. So that's good, but also bad. So good side is it's very good for the crops we've got in the ground. The frost takes out disease levels, knocks them really low. So it helps us when we get to the spring. We've got a nice low threshold to start with. And also aphids. Aphids transmit virus into all of our crops as they feed on them, and this can be a big problem, hits our yields very, very heavily. But when we get the continued frost what we've had, that also knocks the populations of the aphids down, which means then hopefully the populations are low enough so come the spring all the natural predators can do the job for us and we don't actually have to intervene at all with any chemistry sets. So that's excellent and very positive. Now, one downside is we grow sugar beet here on the farm. Now, when sugar beet's growing in the field, majority of the beet that's under the ground isn't affected, but when you get the shoulder above the ground, the frost gets into it. It's not such an issue if you only have 1 or 2 days of frost and if they're not so hard, but get below -5 and for a sustained period, that frost freezes the beet and works its way down, and as it does that, it actually kills the beet and it starts breaking down and basically rotting. We obviously had a frost back in December and now we've had one in January. Luckily, with the help of our very kind next door neighbour and contractor, Bushes and Sons, they came in and lifted our beet after that prolonged first spell and before this next spell, and we've managed to get our sugar beet in the factory without too much losses. The only thing it has done is knock our average sugar content of our beet from about 17% down to, in some cases, 14%. And it's this what we're paid on. We're paid on weight minus the soil, and then it's adjusted for the amount of sugar which is in that beet. Now, seeing it drop from 17 to 14 does have a big impact on the actual adjusted weight of that beet. But luckily, none of our beet was too badly affected by the frost, and it was all in. So it's, yeah, Mother Nature again. It's not easy trying to deal with it, but we have to deal with what we get given. So in the last month's update I mentioned we'd just received a drone. Now the drone we are putting to use across a lot of our farm, so we said we'd dedicate this to the actual drone. So here we are, here's the drone. It's just a DJI Maverick 2, very small drone. You can see it in the palm of my hand with this camera on. Now this drone is controlled by an app which I have on my phone, which I'll show you it working shortly. And we're going to use this drone to scan this field in front of me. So here we open up the app, we select our field which we want to fly and to scan, and you can see the white points there. They're all the dots that the drone is going to go and visit. So it's just going through its startup procedure now. Just checks the camera's working, looks to download a image it has taken, just so when it flies and does its work, everything is working exactly how it should. So you can see it's about done. Goes through its flight process. I click OK, and now up it goes. And it is now going to follow the predetermined path which is set for it by the app. This makes it fly the field in the most efficient way, so it can be as quick and efficient as it can be. So here is the actual points it's going to go on. You can see the green dot is the drone moving. I've got eye contact with it all the time, but this just helps me see where it is also. And you can see information on the right there telling me its altitude, tells me all its positioning of where it is. And once it's got to the spot, it'll drop down to 2 meters above the ground, take a snap, and that's it. Point 1 is done, and off it goes, heading across now on to point 2 in the field. And again, once it gets there, it will drop straight away down to 2 meters in height, which is just there. If we bring this screen up, there you go, you can see on the right there, its height, straight away back up, and will now continue on to its next position. Now you can see on here, there's 13 positions in all, so we'll just let the drone do its job and join it towards the end. So now it's just moving off to its last point on here. Here we go, it's going to take point 13 of 13. It will drop down, take its shot. Now unfortunately this is actually going on a tram line, so we'll have to reposition this point going forward because that's not showing us any detail at all, but I can do that in the app. And that's it. Now it'll come back to the truck. It returns back to the point where I set it off. So once we've scanned the field, just like you've seen happening there, we come back into the office and I'll fire my laptop up, and what I'll get now is a report come through. On the rape, what we've been looking at, I am looking at what we call the GAI, the Green Area Index, and ultimately here we're looking how much nitrogen this crop's going to need now to get through to harvest. We are always looking for a canopy of around about a 3.5 to 4 GAI. That's the Green Area Index of that canopy. Any more than that, then it's a too thick canopy, and the light coming from the sun will be intercepted by the top of the canopy and can't get down all the way to the lower leaves. That's bad. We need all the plant photosynthesizing. So the idea is if we have around 3.5, it means the light can get through the whole canopy. Now rape is quite a straightforward crop to manage in that way. We know we need to add about 50 kilos of nitrogen to give us a 1 GAI pointage. So we can work it out. If we come out with a 1 and we need to be getting to 3.5, obviously then it's just 2.5 times 50 will give us the amount of nitrogen needed. Now that's the very simple facts, but then we have to take into account that nitrogen is only around 60-65% efficient. But also another crucial factor to look at is the amount of nitrogen already in the plant and coming from the soil. So we will walk our soils and we will select fields and we will do a nitrogen test where we take a core of the soil, send it off to be analysed, and that will tell us the amount of available nitrogen we're going to have available to the growing crop in there. And then we can deduct that amount away from the amount of nitrogen what's needed in the growing crop. So we'll take a look in a minute at these results come through, but that's just the nitrogen in the crop. The other thing we can do is once it's taken those pictures, and I hope showed us as well, we can analyse them and see if there's any weeds growing within the crop, any diseases it might have spotted within the crop also. And then at the early stages of a crop's growth stage, it can do plant counts and it can tell us the establishment of the crop. So a weight, it'll tell us if we've drilled 450 seeds a metre square, for example, it will come and tell me how many plants there is per metre squared. So we can work out our establishment figure, which then helps us finely tune our seed rates going forward to get our optimum amount of plants growing in the ground. So it's a very fast and effective way and a more precise way of knowing exactly what we're doing. Also, it's just the imagery we get. On the app you've just seen, we did a simple scout. I can do what we call a sphere and scout, and it will hover above the field and take a whole shot over the whole field, and that actual image will highlight areas where the crop, it looks like it's struggling. So then we can concentrate on them, send a drone into those areas more often to actually help us understand what's going on there. It then helps me when I'm field walking with the agronomist to know exactly the points we need to be going to look at. Rather than walking the field looking for them points, we already know where we're going. So it's a great time-saving tool, but it's also a very, very efficient way of getting more precise and using our inputs more precisely. So let's take a look and see if some of these reports have come through. So here we go, here's a report. Field 2 is where we've just been, 6th of February, you can see there. And you can see there we've got a crop area index of 0.73, 33% of the ground cover, which is not surprising at this time of year. 1% yellow leaves, no purpling, 92% crop uniformity, 2% weeds, and 1% unhealthy crop. And it has given me there an estimation of 228 kilos of nitrogen needed. That's to make us back up to our 3.5/4 GAI. But what I've got to do on there is obviously take, like I said before, take the soil nitrogen supply and put into this, so that will actually reduce the amount of nitrogen which we do have to take. That's what we call sort of our heat map, and that is showing me where I've got more cover and less cover. Now the corners you can see will be because it's dropped down on a tram line and there's naturally not any cover, so I can just slightly adjust them points going forward. If you see, the dots are where it was landing. Put one in each corner so we get the whole map of the field. And as we scroll down, we can then see what it's given us from each of our points. So we've got point 1, and it gives us our image. There you can see it's landed slightly on the tram line. Let's pick a point. If we go point 2 here, so point 2, it just breaks me down that point. We've got a little bit of unhealthy crop, it thinks. We've got some yellowing leaves. We've got a GAI of 0.73. So if we have a look at the image, that just shows me where that was taken from, point 2 in the field. And here is the image that it is actually physically taken. And then this is the artificial intelligence, what it is seeing. So all the green is what it is seeing as oilseed rape. And then the red bits are potentially weeds grown in here. And I know this will be. This is actually blackgrass, which got sprayed end of December with a chemistry to take the blackgrass out. And that is what is dying in the bottom of this crop here. So it analyzes every single plot in that way. That's just to break down what it gives me. And average stats. So now we can take a look at the image also on the phone that the camera took, and it just allows me to each plot just zoom in and see what actually is happening. So here we can see the weeds underneath the canopy, which are actually dying from the herbicide we popped on, which is great news. So we can rather rapidly assess a field condition of the oilseed rape and the weeds. So I hope you found that of interest. That shows a little bit of what we're doing with this drone, and I'm sure the technology will develop as time goes on, but it's going to be a great help to help speed up our field walking, be more precise, and help us target our inputs even with more precision than we already do. So the next steps are fly all our oilseed rape fields now, get the estimated nitrogen needed, get the soil mineral nitrogen results back, and then we can make a precise plan of nitrogen to go on in this first drop. We will then do one final application of nitrogen after that, which again, the drone will have been flown over to give us a indication if indeed that final application is needed at all. So if anybody's interested in it, it is Skippy Scout. If you simply just Google Skippy Scout, you will see it come up and all the information is there for you. So yes, hope you enjoyed that update from here at Revesby Estates. We're now pushing on into February and we've got a bit of a dry slot, so we are going to start drilling this month. Hopefully we'll get our spring beans into the ground, and we'll make a start on our spring barley. Really, before we get too much barley or oats in there, we really want to see the soil temperatures rising above 5 degrees. We are hovering around 5 degrees at the moment. These frosts, what we're currently having, are just knocking it back to about 4.6. But we want to see a consistent 5 degrees before we really start putting too many of our seeds in the ground. So yeah, hopefully we will be able to update you on that next month. So we look forward to seeing you then.